This is J. Krishnamurti's second public discussion in New Delhi, 1962.
Perhaps we could spend this evening discussing a problem or asking questions that might reveal our own particular problems and conflicts. But I think when we do ask questions, they should be not too flippant, but sufficiently serious to indicate their content, and perhaps by asking questions we shall be able to reveal to ourselves the ways of our own thinking. So perhaps you'd ask, and I will try to answer some of them. Yes, sir. The gentleman wants to know what's the difference between mind in meditation and mind in sleep. Perhaps before I answer that question, there might be others who would put similar questions or different questions. So let's put all the questions together and see what we get out of it.
How to make it vain mind, religious or silent? Is not effort needed for it? Effort needed for it?
Is not effort needed for a vain mind to be still. Is not some kind of endeavor, some kind of effort needed to make the mind still.
Sir, may I ask, you said the other day, one should not be ambitious. If ambition ceases to be, life becomes not so progressive. Would more light be thrown on this subject, sir?
If there is to be no ambition, will not all progress cease? What is the nature of happiness?
What is death, sir?
Conscious mind is the result of unconscious impulses or conflicts. Without some pedagogical technique, how is it possible to free the conscious mind from the unconscious?
This gentleman asks, how is it possible to free the conscious mind from the unconscious?
There are one question. Say that if one understands the fact totally, completely, the mind becomes still. I have not been able to understand what's meant by totally understanding or completely understanding.
Gentleman wants to know what it means to face a fact completely, because he has not understood that. So please explain, that's what he asks. Now just a minute. What's the difference between personal and universal mind? That's enough. Sir, just, yes sir. What, sir? Yes, sir. Yeah. It's not possible to free the mind immediately. Yes, that's excellent. So I think that's enough questions for the time being, isn't it?
Similar one, I want to add only one word, speculation. When you refer to the change in mind, immediately, whether you refer to psychological kind or chronological.
So isn't that enough questions? Perhaps after we've answered all these questions, there'll be time for yours to be answered later. All these questions that have been put, how to free the mind immediately from conditioning, how to free the unconscious mind from the unconscious, what it is to free unconditionally, immediately, and what is the difference between a still mind and the mind that's asleep. Now, those are the major questions. Let's tackle those. First of all, how would you answer these questions? Apparently, they're a problem to you. How would you set about to understand them? And what do we mean by a problem? At what level are they a problem? You have a business problem, a problem of technique, mechanical problem, or an emotional, psychological problem, a problem with your children or with a wife and a husband. So at what level are we asking these questions? At what depth, with what significance are these questions that are asked? Is it to really find out, actually find out, or merely put to evoke a reply which will be satisfactory to you? Are you really inquiring, or are you merely putting a question casually without much significance? A question is put either because it is really a vital problem, demanding a serious answer, or you're putting the question very casually because you by chance happen to hear a certain statement. Now, what is a problem? To a hungry man, food is the first problem. To us, that's not a problem. We have a problem because somebody has put it to you. All the questions you have raised so far has been problems that have been artificially put to you. They're not your problems. Either you have read them in the books, or you happen to have heard the speaker talk about these problems. So they're not your intimate problems, are they? What's that? Wait. The gentleman says they are my intimate problem. Are they your intimate problem in the sense that if you lose a job, you're desperately concerned about it? Or if you have no meal, or somebody very desperately ill, That's a problem, isn't it? The questions that you have put so far, are they of such nature that you have put it with all serious intent, because it's your problem, not mine. It is a problem that concerns you. That is, you have thought about it. You have gone into it. You have searched out to find out, and therefore you have not been able to find it. And therefore you put the question. I hope you see the difference. Either the problem has been put to you and therefore you accept the problem, or it's your problem. Because you are a living human entity and it has got many problems. And so you are out of your own anxiety, fear, guilt, sorrow, you are asking these questions. I hope I am making myself perfectly clear. Now, at what depth are you asking this question? With what integrity, with what seriousness are you asking these questions? I'll answer these questions presently. I'll explain rather than answer, because a problem, if you seek an answer to a problem, then the problem is not very serious. So, after putting these questions, shouldn't one find out for oneself how serious one is to find out the truth of the question, and the truth of that lies behind the words. So after that, let's inquire. The first question was, what is the difference between a still mind and that state of sleep in which there is no dream? What's the difference? Is that a real question? Is that a real problem to the gentleman or the lady? Does he know what a still mind is? Or is it merely a theory, an idea? And then he says, what's the difference between that state in which you have no dream and a mind that is still? Obviously, it's not a very serious question. Because to find out what is a very still mind, one must have abandoned ambition, greed, envy, and fear. Has one done it? Or has one read about a still mind and says speculatively, what's the difference between that and a mind that does not dream, a sleepless state, a dreamless state? Is that a serious question or a speculative question? And why does one dream? I do not know if you have thought about it at all. Most people do dream. Why? Because most of the time, most of the day, your conscious mind is occupied. Occupied with the job, with what you are doing, with the quarrels, with the superficialities of existence. All day it is occupied with it. And when you do go to sleep, then the conscious mind is somewhat quiet. Not entirely, but somewhat quiet. Into that quietness, the unconscious projects its own impulses, its own urgencies, its own convictions, its own remembrances, compulsive urges. And the conscious mind translates those hints and intimations in symbols. That's fairly clear, isn't it? You're not accepting my theory. If you observe yourself, you will have noticed how very little time you have during the day to be quiet. Not just for 10 minutes or a half an hour in the morning, but throughout the day. How little time you have to receive all the intimations of the unconscious. And the only time you have is when you sleep. And then you have dreams. And the dreams are the projections of the unconscious. This is, I think, a psychological fact. One can investigate it for oneself and discover this fact. Now, then the problem arises, how to translate these dreams. Then you have the interpreters of dreams who translate the dreams according to their ideas or to something which they have learned. So their interpretation of the dream is conditioned. And so you cannot rely on the interpreter. So please, I hope you're following all this. So, and do you dream, and will you interpret your own dreams? Can you? And sometimes when you do dream, as you dream, there is the interpretation taking place, if it has happened to you. At the actual moment of dreaming, there is at the same time interpretation of that dream going on. And you have every kind of dream. Dreams evoked when you have eaten too much. Dreams of lust, passion. I'm using the word passion in its normal sense. And all the hidden compulsions, urges that are thrown onto the screen of the conscious by the unconscious. How will you interpret all these dreams? Surely it's not possible. So, please follow this. So, it may be totally wrong to dream. There should be no dreams at all. Though some psychologists maintain, not that I have read any psychological books, but I have met several of them, they maintain that dreams are necessary. Even though the mind has no dream on waking, does not recollect any dreams, dreams are going on all the same. Now, shouldn't we ask ourselves whether dreams are necessary at all? It may be possible not to dream at all. I think it is possible, and I'll show you. First of all, most most of our minds, the so-called educated and the so-called uneducated mind, is occupied. Occupied with its job, with its worries, with its difficulties, as the housewife is occupied with the kitchen. So the mind is occupied with something. Please observe your own mind. You're not watching, you're not listening to me, but you're watching your own mind. If you observe your own mind, you will see that your mind is occupied with something, with some problem, with some issue, with some mechanical difficulty, if you are a mechanic. If you are a lawyer, you're concerned, you're occupied with the case. If you are a businessman, you're occupied how to make more money. If you are a bureaucrat, with all the bureaucratic problems. So, throughout the day, there is not an interval in which your mind is not occupied. And if it is not occupied, you're frightened not to be occupied. Because most of us fear to discover what is concealed within ourselves. So we are busily occupied like ants on the surface. So this is the first problem to understand, that a mind occupied with whatever it is, with God, with your Gitas, with your worship, with your prayers, with bureaucracy, with women, with men, drink, they are all the same. Occupation is all the same, whether it is with God or with sex. And a mind that is occupied has no space in which, while you are awake, there can be intimation of the unconscious. In a space in which there is quietness, in which the mind is not occupied, questioning, asking, demanding, seeking. So that's the first problem, first issue, not a problem. That must be understood by a mind that is inquiring to the whole problem of dream. Then there is the mind which is being occupied, which has become dull, insensitive. Most of our minds are insensitive. You know what it means to be sensitive? To be aware of the tree, of the birds, to be aware of the squalor, the untidiness of a room in which you live, to be aware of your boss and his peculiarities, to be aware, to be sensitive to everything alive and dead, to things about you and beyond you, to be aware of the stars, to look at the sky of an evening and see the beauty of it, to see the little ant moving in so many directions, to be aware without judgment, without condemnation, without translating, just to watch nature, human beings, children, animals. And you have no time to do that. You're never aware, you're never sensitive. And so what happens? When a mind is so occupied all day with itself, with its own problems, it becomes more and more dull, heavy, stupid, insensitive. When I use the word stupid, I am using the dictionary meaning, not condemnatory in any way. I'm using the word emphatically. It doesn't mean condemnatory. So, being insensitive, unaware, the mind, when it goes to the consciousness, when it goes to sleep, part of it goes to sleep, the other part begins to project its own intimations, which become dreams. So, in order to understand the whole meaning of dream, and if it is possible to stop dreaming at all, one must become conscious, aware, pay attention to everything about you. Watch every movement of thought. Watch every feeling. And learn all about it. As every minute when you are sitting in the bus, when you are cycling, when you are in your office, watch every movement of thought. Not try to control it, not try to shape it, not try to change it, but just watch it. I do not know if you ever watched your children. I doubt it. To learn about your children, you must watch them. Watch them when they are crying, when they are playing, when they are eating, when they are sleeping, when they are mischievous. And to learn what they are, to learn about them, if you condemn, you can't learn about them. So you can only learn about them when there is no condemnatory or comparative attitude. So similarly, if you are interested to find out the whole significance of dream, and if it is possible to stop dreaming at all, you must understand this problem of occupation. And also the problem of dull, weary, routine-minded, bored mind. A mind that goes to the office day after day, month after month, the appalling boredom of it, the sheer waste of energy. How can such a mind be sensitive? Which doesn't mean you must leave your office. You can't. If you do, you know what will happen. But going to the office, coming back home, during the office, on the bicycle, in the bus, to be watchful, to see the trees, to see the people, to see the birds, to be aware of everything as you're going along. Then out of that watchfulness, the mind doesn't loses its boredom, its routine, its dullness. And this watchfulness is not a discipline, not a technique, which is a horror. That's all you are trained in, to accept a system, a machine-made ideas. Whereas as you watch yourself, your thoughts, your feelings, what you say to your servant, your boss, your responses, how you feel behind the words, the showing of great respect to the great man and kicking your servant. To be aware of all this. And when you are so aware, you will see all the unconscious motives, compulsions, urges, likes and dislikes. They all come out bursting. So during the time of your conscious daylight, awakened interest and sensitivity, the unconscious projects itself. And so when you do go to sleep, your mind has no dream. So, if you have really gone that far, which is going quite a distance, because then you have thrown away all routine ideas, all technical compulsive methods of disciplining your mind. Because the disciplining the mind is deadening the mind. That's what's happened to this unfortunate country. In this country you have had waves after waves of saints who have only thought in terms of discipline, denial, suppression, control. And these saints have always advocated the denial of beauty. To them beauty meant woman. And so they shut themselves up in their own petty little minds. And have imposed upon others their ideas of austerity, their ideas of simplicity, which is to put on a loincloth and inwardly be in a battle all day, incessantly. You may smile, sirs, but you're not watching your own mind. So, a dull mind, a mind that is routine bound, a mind that thinks only mechanically in terms of discipline, how to achieve something, always wanting something, gaining something. Such a mind can never be sensitive. And you need sensitivity. Complete sensitivity, physically. All your senses tremendously alive, not suppressed. Which doesn't mean that you must indulge. So, to the mind which has been for centuries, as the Indian mind has been made so dull, if there is such a thing as an Indian mind, by authority, by superstition, by this everlasting question, how do I get it? Such a mind has to break down its insensitivity. And it's only possible when you are aware of every word you say, the way you talk to your servant, the way you talk to your bosses, the tremendous respect you show to somebody from whom you're going to get a job or some blessing or some rot that you're going to ask. And if you are aware, without condemning, without judging, choicelessly, then you will see your mind becomes extraordinarily supple, astonishingly sensitive. Then you don't belong to any cult, to any group. You don't call yourself a Sikh, a Hindu, a Buddhist, a Muslim, nothing. So, if your mind is not occupied in the sense, caught in occupation, and your mind is not made dull by routine, but breaks down that mind which has been made dull by constantly watching, asking, inquiring, never accepting, questioning, doubting everything that is being said. Question your Gitas, your Bibles, your sacred books, your very gods. Tear down the house to find out. Then you will see that when you do go to sleep, your mind becomes extraordinarily quiet. And therefore, a quiet mind in sleep is not a sleepy mind. The body is asleep, the whole entity is quiet. Both the conscious and the unconscious is quiet. Because during the waking hours, the unconscious has emptied itself through the conscious. Through the conscious mind being awake all the time, asking, seeing, perceiving, understanding. So there is no dull spot in the conscious mind. And therefore, the whole unconscious empties itself. All its motives, its traditions, its pursuits. Then the whole consciousness becomes quiet. And this process is meditation. Not sitting in a corner and repeating words. This is meditation, to be aware of everything about you. But you say, unfortunately, very few of us take this seriously. We play with things. Because what we are really interested in is making money, getting a good job, sex, and leading a comfortable, superficial life. That is basically what most of us are interested in. As you get older, you turn to these things, because there is death round the corner. I'm not going to talk about death today. So as you get older, you turn to God. After spending 40, 50 or 30 years in an office. And by then, you have no mind. Your mind is wasted, gone, finished. But to find if there is a reality, you need to have a sharp, clear, precise mind with depth and clarity. It requires tremendous energy. But your energy is wasted in conflict, in ambition. So, the meditative mind is the sensitive mind. The uncommitted mind. The mind that is not occupied. The mind that does the job that has to do, mechanical, bureaucratic, whatever it is. It does the job, but it's not occupied with the job. It does it efficiently. But it's not concerned with efficiency. So, action never takes root in the mind. It acts, but it has no root, because it has understood the motive and is free from the motive. You know, sirs, there is a difference between function and status. Most of us want status combined with function. All politicians do. They are more concerned with status than with function. To do a job, the governor or the minister or anybody, a bureaucrat, to do the job and not have status with it involved, which is status being position, power, prestige, name, patronage, and all the rest of that silly stuff. For most of us, status matters, not the function. I do not know if you have not watched it, how you treat your cook and how you treat the governor. Now, to be aware of that. And to watch it yourself, watch that process in yourself, your reactions. When you make the big noise and when you make the little noise. And by watching yourself, seeing all your reactions, you will see how quickly you're out of all this. But perhaps you don't want to be out of it. That is the difficulty. You like the other. So your questions are not really very serious at all. You play with the questions. But if you went to the very end of it, you will find out. And to find out, you have to know yourself as you are. What you do, what you think, whether you think you are the supreme self or the little self. Everything about yourself. And there is beauty in that. There is no dread, there is no fear, there is an extraordinary fascination to know the whole content of the mind. What, sir? I've got it. The gentleman says we have not reached that position when we do not dream. We do dream. How should we deal with these dreams? That's right, sir. The gentleman asks, we do dream. We haven't come to that point when we have no dreams. But how do we deal with those dreams that we do have? Now, I am not interpreting dreams. I'm not telling you how to interpret dreams. But I'm indicating for yourself to find out, to go into it if you're interested. First of all, there are the repetitive dreams. Dreams that occur over and over and over again, which indicates that it is a problem deep down hidden, which you have to pay attention and resolve, otherwise it keeps on repeating. And to pay attention to the unconscious with its intimation requires attention. You understand what I'm talking about? Well, the gentleman who has asked this question probably will. The rest will just play with words. A repetitive dream indicates a problem that has to be resolved, and you do not pay attention to it. Therefore it repeats, like a child asks a question. Now, how do you, please listen to this, how do you pay attention to something which you don't know? You understand? Now, please listen to this. How do you pay attention to something of which you have not the slightest inclination? Its significance, its intimation. I can pay attention to you who are telling me something, because I interpret what you are saying. You and I speak the same language, English. Therefore, what you tell me has a meaning to me. But the dream, which is the projection of the unconscious, which is the projection of something of which I do not know the total content, how am I to pay attention to it? I am purposely elaborating the question. You understand? Which is, how am I to pay attention to something about which I have no knowledge consciously? So, I have to understand what it is to attend. Is that clear, sirs? What it is to pay attention. Now, most of us give attention with a motive. Don't we? I pay attention, as a boy does, when he has to pass an examination. Because he has to. And you pay attention when you want more money, when there is competition, when there is fear, when there is a reward, when there is a punishment. You give more attention, you give more time, more thought, more feeling. Which is, you pay attention through a motive. Right, sirs? Therefore, it is not complete attention. It's a partial attention. When I want something from you, and I pay attention to you, I am not paying attention to you at all. I want something from you. And all my bending the knee and worshipping you and putting garlands around you is just a camouflage to get something from you. So, there is no attention if there is a motive. Now, which means the conscious and the unconscious, please follow this. Please, let me make clear here. I am not repeating something which I have thought out before and repeating. I'm thinking aloud with you. Therefore, I'm inquiring. Therefore, I hesitate. You understand? Therefore, I hesitate, watch, inquire. The unconscious and conscious are the known. The unconscious is the part which the conscious does not know. But the whole content is the known. The whole content of consciousness is the known, in which is included your gods, your super cosmic entities, and everything, knowledge, time, thought, racial instincts, all that is included, which is all the known. Please follow all this. The known then says, I must pay attention. You're following? The known says, I must pay attention. But the known is the root of all consciousness, is the motive of all action. You follow? That is, the past, the known, is the motive. And that motive dictates your attention. And therefore that attention is not total. Right. If that is clear, then the question is how to inquire, how to pay attention without a motive. That is, please, that is, to be negatively attentive. I don't know if you follow this. When we are attentive, it is a positive attention with a motive. But we know that the motive is the past, the whole content of the known. And that attention is partial, and therefore not total. But to pay attention totally, there must be negation. That is, no motive. So look, it's very simple, it's not complicated. Which is when you want to understand your child, whom you think you love, which you don't. When you want to pay attention, to learn, to understand your child, what do? You look at him, you study him. There is no motive. You don't say, he's my child, and he must do this, he mustn't do that, if you want to understand him. So, to understand something, there is no motive. To love somebody, if you love somebody, there is no motive, is there? But you don't know that love, because your love is, never mind. So to inquire, to pay a total attention, there must be the emptiness of the known. There must be freedom from the known. And that freedom from the known is instantaneous, which that gentleman asked. He said, how am I to free the conditioning, my conditioning instantly? I'm showing it to you. That when you condemn, when you compare, justify, that comparison, condemnation, justification is the reaction of the known. And in that state of attention, it is partial. And therefore it's not attention at all. So there can be attention only in a state of negation. Only the negative mind can attend. Only thinking negatively is attention. You're following all, some of you are following all this.
What do you mean by the time lag between the thinker and the thought?
Sir, look, I'm telling you something which you should also pay attention to. I'm telling you something which is equally important, but you have spent your time in thinking out and keeping to that question. You haven't listened to what was being said. Too bad, sirs. So, if you seeing is all important and not the method. To see something instantly. But you can't see something instantly if you're committed. If you want to say, as that gentleman says, what do you mean by thinker and thought and time lag? If he had paid attention to what was being said, he would have answered the question himself and discovered what is true. So, the total consciousness is the known. Please listen to this for 2 minutes and you will get this. The total consciousness is the known. And to pay total attention, there must be freedom from the known. Which means there must be no center from which there is attention. The center is the known. The center that is censors, that condemns, judges, evaluates. From that center, you look, you observe, you attend. And therefore it's not attention, it is not observation. It's partial, it's like a mind half asleep looking. And to be free of the center is to see that there can be attention only when there is no center. And there is attention if you see that truth immediately. Sirs, there are many questions, and it is time to stop. But you will be able to answer your own inquiry, your own questioning, when you are not seeking an answer. Do please listen to me. When you are not seeking an answer, the problem itself reveals the whole content. But we are always wanting an answer, as though that solves the problem. That gentleman asked, what is the time lag between the thinker and the thought? Is really a very good question. It will reveal a lot. But to find out all the content of that question, to understand the whole question, not the answer, not the explanation, not the word, you must live with it. Not tomorrow, not next minute, you must live with something which is vital. You understand, sir? To live with something, you know what that means? To give all your energy, undivided attention to that thing completely. I'm going to answer very briefly that gentleman's question, you will see it. For most of us, action is the approximation to an idea. We are not interested in action. We are interested in the idea and try to bring action to that idea. If you watch yourself, this is so. You have an ideal. And you bring yourself to that ideal. And that's called action. So there is an interval, a time lag between action and idea. And you are always trying to bridge the two. And thereby conflict and all the rest of it comes into it. In the same way, there is the thinker and the thought. If you observe yourself, this is a fact. I'm not inventing. I'm not trying to put something across you. There is the thinker and the thought, or the observer and the thing observed. There is an interval. There is a gap between the two. The same thing as action and idea. And this time interval creates all the mischief. If there was no time interval, there is only action, thought and action, not action and thought. So, you know what it is to love, don't you? No, you don't. When you know love, what it is to love, there is instant action. Love is not an idea. Love is not something separated as godly love and filthy love. Love of the flesh and love of God. There is no division. Love. And when you do love, then you will know this. There is no interval of time at all in action.